All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much for being on here with me. My name's Steven. I have Rick Wheaton and Casey Jensen joining me. And we're just coming on here. We want to share this with men out there, with dads, with single guys, with wherever you are in your season of life as a guy. We just really wanted to take a look at what the three of us have really walked through as a journey in our health. So I wanted to bring these brothers on, my fellow ER shredders with me, and just really get some perspective as the holidays approach. There's a lot of things to be thinking about. I think a lot of folks are really just concerned to a degree about, putting on that extra weight and their health. And, there's a lot of things we want to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch it over to Rick here. I just wanted to have his experience about having been in the air shred for a really long time, having been with our fulfillment company as well, and just kind of talk about how this health journey kind of started for you and how it's really changed your life, how it's really brought perspective to your life and all of the other things that go with it. So over to you, Rick.
Awesome, awesome. Stephen, great for putting this together. Casey, man, this is great. So my journey started, Tasha and I, my wife and I started about 8 years ago with our fulfillment company. And I was just in a health crisis. I mean, I was to the point where doctors said, look, either do something about getting about 70 pounds off your body, or we're going to have to help you with pharmaceuticals. And I just didn't want to go that route. So within 2 months, I was able to really kind of radically change my health and well-being, dropped about 43 pounds and never looked back. Fast forward to this past 2 years when COVID hit, we decided, because it was just such a terrible time, to really try to level up our health and well-being all around, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all those things. So we started a group where we were actually coaching people through our 11-day resets that we do. And we had tremendous success. We had tremendous success with really trying to help people feel better and have a better outlook on life, and physically get better. And then comes along the ER shred. A good friend of ours, a guy named Brad C., mentioned to us that, hey, he saw a guy named Sean Escobar doing something called the ER shred. And I want to give it a go because he's had success with our regular 11-day, but he thought this would be better. He had radical success. He said, Rick, you got to do it. I read a book called The Big Fat Surprise. After reading that book, I jumped in head first. I dove in. And I really, for me, and it's all personal for everyone, physically, I've always wanted to see if I could challenge myself to get to my high school weight and also resculpt my body. And it was just a personal challenge for me. I could never do that prior to the ER shred, but after, I don't know how many times I did it, 3 or 4 times, I was able to release about 37 pounds. I was able to get a 6-pack back. I was able to just do some things that I never thought possible for me at my age, in my 50s, to be able to really have such a radical change in my body. So from a physical standpoint, we were really trying to, or I was trying to see how well I could do in that area. If I go further, I'd say the second thing that happened emotionally was I started showing up better. I started really being more conscious of who I was being and who I was trying to be in any situation with my marriage, friends, family, kids. And I found myself being much more open and more positive about where I was going and what was happening in my life. And it gave me a different perspective. So I was extraordinarily excited about that, because not only was the physical transformation happening, but internally, emotionally, I was transforming, which was like mind blowing. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And lastly, I think, just you two gentlemen, when I started sharing this, I'm seeing how you two are showing up differently. I'm seeing how so many people that Tasha introduced us to are having physical, emotional, spiritual, and so many radical changes in their lives. Because Stephen, you wouldn't have done this a year ago. Casey, you wouldn't be on this live a year ago. So the gift, if you will, the gift for men, and going into this season where we're, people put on somewhere between 5 and 30 pounds, 15 and 30 pounds, something like that. Also just get bogged down in a lot of stuff because we get focused on the commercial side of things, typically this time of year, and it can be stressful. So that I think this could be a way for us to help men and all people, but help men alleviate some of that stress, alleviate some of those pounds, show up differently in their lives, in all facets of their lives. And if they choose to, because of the radical change that it's had on them, they can do what, I've been able to do, is share it with great guys like you that has impacted you guys in such a way that, that's the beauty of this for me, is seeing your lives change in such a way that you are, not that you were, not cool people before, but I think your wives and your people in your life, your significant others, those who are important to you, who interact with you every day, would say you're showing up a little differently. And that's the beauty of this overall for me. And it really warms my heart in such a way that, people will never know that you can impact someone's life in that way just by showing them a different way to show up, a different way to eat, different protocols that really work. And it's been a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome, Rick. I wanted to kind of tease out a little bit more too, like for you personally, because I think this is an area that a lot of men struggle with. I know I struggle with it, like just like feeling like maybe I have to change things. It's hard to try to change some of your habits, some of the things you want to eat. Like, why was that health crisis? Like, why was that such a catalyst for you? And Casey, I want to have maybe you speak to that a little bit too. That question of like the health catalyst, the thing that spurred you to say, you know what, enough is enough. I need to do this right. I need to fix this for myself, and why that was so important to you as that happened.
That's a great question. Well, let me speak for my age group, because you guys are younger than me. You know, I can see that the other side of the mountain is coming. I'm on the back nine, if you will, of life. And I see a lot of guys my age who just aren't in their best health. I see a lot of guys my age who say, is this what getting old means? If that's so, well, I'll grin and bear it, but I'm not really happy. And that's kind of where I was. Okay, am I just getting older? And this is kind of what I should expect as an older guy. And I just refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that that was what it was all about. I refuse to believe that I couldn't turn back some of the challenges I was facing in health, in my health crisis. And I chose to believe that I could do something different. So, 8 years or 9 years ago, I didn't have a choice, really. It was either you're going to do this or pharmaceuticals are coming. And I've never been a guy who's taken pharmaceuticals. I've never been a person who, relies on pills or something to help intercede in my health. I've always wanted to be the person, being an ex-athlete and being someone who's really wanted to go into my longevity of life and be active. I saw this as a possibility. And when the ER Shred came around last year, and we've done this now for just a year, coaching and using and benefiting from it, that I could radically change people's lives. I could have an impact. Maybe I wouldn't change it. It'd have to be on them, but I could have a radical impact on guys who felt like me. And lastly, I would say that, a lot of guys my age, unfortunately, you get these stories about, he passed away suddenly. He's in a really bad crisis. And often that meant to me was heart disease. That meant like, guys, maybe if they changed up some things nutritionally, maybe if they changed up some fitness habits, maybe if they combine the two, along with, getting perspective emotionally by just becoming, better, or having access to things that I've read, like The Big Fat Surprise, that really opened my eyes to what's possible. So for me, Stephen, it was more about not wanting to be prematurely a statistic, not wanting to be something, wanting to be around for my wife, my kids, wanting to accomplish goals that I have personally as I get older, and not relying upon the standard way that people kind of just think that, okay, I'm just gonna And I don't know what's graceful about getting old, getting fat, feeling bad, and and feeling like your health is poor, because that's not graceful. Graceful to me is leaning into the possibilities of health outcomes that you can have an impact on. And you guys and we're all testimonies, walking testimonies of what's possible at any age of reclaiming your health.
Yeah, I love how you touch on that, that there's 3 different generations of men here, like in terms of like age ranges, right? It's like this can transcend any level. And so Casey, over to you, if I could kind of just to share like some of the things that you heard from Rick kind of resonate, like what kind of, I want to kind of ask 2-pronged question if I can. First, kind of what was the catalyst that spurred you to say, you know what, enough is enough. I need to change my health. I need to listen to people and maybe take a different approach to the way I view my health based on what doctors are telling me. And secondly, how did you feel when you were talking to Tasha and Rick, and like, how did that go for you? Like, what was the thing that spurred you on from another testimony side of things that really got you kind of excited and decided to say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to mirror these or match these two together, marry these two together, say, I need this catalyst and I trust these people. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah, thanks for reviewing the question so I can get back to that. So I know I'm getting into, but yeah, the catalysts are kind of like health crisis and kind of where I was at. I mean, you guys know me, but I'm a middle school teacher. I'm also a high school baseball coach. And when COVID hit, plus I went through a divorce. So it was a lot of things just hitting me at one time. And the saying, we use it a lot of times, and I'll say it, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I used to be a full-time personal trainer. My background was in kinesiology. And at this time in my life, at 44 years old, that whole thing of a male asking for help, I was kind of at that point. I was up to like 235. I'm weighing 195 right now. I wasn't really using workout, to get to where I wanted to be, but I went back to my training and everyone said like 80% of, how you feel, it's like your diet. And so for me, it was just not feeling well. Because I coach, I work long hours, and I don't want to be that coach where I sit on the bucket or I can't get up, or my belly, I can't look at my belt, or I can't tie my shoes. That's just not me. I was a 2-sport athlete in high school, and I feel like I'm a role model of these kids, not just for my knowledge of the game of baseball, but I have to walk the walk too. And that, you need to have proper nutrition. I've been one of those coaches where I always tell my kids like about hydration, like the importance of that. Cause I tell people, I feel a lot of coaches will say, yeah, you drink more, you need to hydrate, but they don't really explain to kids like how many ounces or why do you need that water? And so I started adding a little bit of nutrition into how I coach. And so, going through my little crisis of just not feeling well, feeling too heavy, none of my clothes fit, that really pushed me. And right now I've gone to tournaments and coached where people look at my clothes and my clothes are like falling off, and they look at me running around and they're like, yeah, the old guy with the white beard, but he's really not that old because he's running around. And, so that's really what did it for me. And I'll tell you, maybe part of your second question, one thing that really got me to do is kind of 2 things. It was one, meeting Natasha and Rick and coaching their son in baseball. And so we had kind of a little relationship there. I watched their son change his body type tremendously and really lean up. And I was like, wow. And then I think what really, really hit me was, and Rick, I don't know if you remember this, coming to a practice in the fall a couple of years ago, and I see you over on the sideline by the trees and stand there. I honestly didn't know who you were. I was shocked, Rick. I was like, wait, do I know this guy? But he's talking to me. And I think we had masks on, or maybe he had a mask on. And I was like, that's Rick. I was like, where's the rest of them? So it's kind of like, that's when it hit. And I remember from there, I bought some of the shakes from you. And I remember even just adding the shakes in my diet, and I lost like 3 or 4 pounds. And I could tell Rick in his eyes was like, that's the start of it. Like, that's just a part of it, what he's trying to offer. So it's kind of, from seeing his son and also just knowing Natasha and how you know, how positive she is all the time. And she's always like that. And I see him and it's kind of like, you know, seeing two role models. It's like, I want to be like that, you know? And it's like, I'm just tired of, you know, people that come up with excuses. And I hate that. I don't coach that way. I tell my kids, you know, excuses, like, come on, like I saw problems and I looked at them. I was like, two people that are together, they're, you know, doing with their kids. Like there's no excuses anymore. So those two things kind of hit me.
No, that's awesome. And you know, so I wanted to kind of also, I'm going to share my part in a minute, but I wanted to pivot back to something else that really changed for you both. Like, what are some of the things that, because Casey, you mentioned things like not being able to put your pants on or not being active, you know, as a coach. Rick, the same thing, like, or just being an athlete or sculpting and getting back to your weight. Like, how did getting, like, losing that weight, like, change like every other area of your life as you continue to grow into it and realize like the possibilities you had? I wanted to kind of touch on that too. So I'll go to Rick first, if that's okay, Casey, or I can do either. It doesn't matter. Actually, Casey, why don't you go first and I'll have Rick go.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Okay. Yeah, because I got a little thought. I also teach I teach health. Okay. I teach 7th grade health in middle school. And during this time, it's one of these classes where I hear from a lot of my kids are like, you know, Mr. Jensen, we really appreciate you teaching this class, you know, during a tough time. Like we need this class. And I kept hearing that from my students. And then when I got back to school, teaching them in person, a lot of the health topics that we talk about are what these kids and what people are struggling through right now during this pandemic. Like for instance, I used to skip over sometimes the personal hygiene lesson, but heck, we're in a pandemic. We're talking about washing your hands. I'm like, you know what? Let me talk about this, you know? So we also talk about self-esteem and confidence. And I really dive into this because I know these kids are hurting. And I understand why they lash out or they do things that they shouldn't do. And a lot of times it's their self-esteem. They don't feel confident. They don't have someone to talk to, you know, the whole gamut. And so one of the things with me, like losing the weight and getting back into clothes and feeling good in my clothes, it also, I'm teaching these kids about self-esteem, and it increased my self-esteem twofold. My confidence came back, you know, and I'm thinking, I'm talking to these kids. Well, I need to be doing the same thing. And so that really kind of hit me, like, especially being in front of them and seeing what they need and trying to build their confidence. And as simple as turning in an assignment and giving them a grade right away just builds their confidence. And so the whole self-esteem issue, every quarter, that's what we talk about. And mental health is our largest lesson or part of our curriculum that we go into. And I realized that I'm trying to help them when I don't have it down. And it's gone backwards for me. You know, a lot of things happen, but it's like, how am I going to be there for them, you know, if I don't have my self-esteem? And so I noticed that's with me losing the weight and feeling better. Yeah, I love people saying, hey, man, what have you do? Like, what'd you do? Like, you look great. You know, I appreciate that. You know, that can only go so far. I mean, you hear those compliments. I love it. But it was really, it brought my self-confidence back up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that that's exactly what, you know, a lot of us guys, I know, like you said, like that's kind of the same thing it did for me. And yeah, so Rick, why don't I let you share? And then I have a quick question too on something else, but go ahead, Rick.
Sure. I think Casey nailed it. I mean, when you feel better, look better, you show up better. You know, you really can you know, be and step into the power that we all possess. I believe everyone is entitled and worthy of being their best version of themselves. I think what holds us back oftentimes is how, you know, physically, how we feel about ourselves. You know, as men, I know that my confidence level was the highest when I was the most athletic, when I was able to do things that other people could do, or I could do just as good as them. So for me, being able to get back, I mean, I think I've lost about 90 pounds altogether. That's a lot of weight. You know, that's a lot of weight. When I was in corporate America, when I first was introduced to this, like Casey, you know, I was to the point where I could barely put the last belt loop on my belt. And I didn't want to buy a bigger belt. So I forced it on that, you know, that first loop. You're like, oh my God, it just barely fits. My suits were so tight. When I got on planes, organs were hurting inside when we changed altitude. I mean, I thought I could have a heart attack or something could happen or burst inside my body because that's how it felt. And that was just so it was like, that was so foreign to me because all my life, for the most part, I've been pretty healthy and athletic. So to be able to feel better, look better, and it made me show up better, and it makes me show up better. It makes me want to continuously want to grow in my life, in my journey, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in my relationships with my wife, my friends, my family. So I think the magic is, it's not about, like Casey said, it's not about, oh wow, I look good. It's about, I feel good. I know my confidence level, my esteem, my self-esteem is so much higher. And it's given all of us, because of the fact that we're on this Zoom together, on this Facebook, we wouldn't do this. I wouldn't have done this years ago. So definitely by feeling and looking and actually knowing that I'm better health-wise, there's nothing I can't accomplish. And health is where it all begins.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Casey, you have anything you wanted to add to that, or you feel like you got, okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Like, you guys both hit the nail on the head. It was a little different story for me, obviously, but, and just from an outsider's perspective, for those of you who end up watching this, like, I didn't know Rick and Tasha actually that well. I wasn't fortunate enough to have that close-knit relationship that Casey got the opportunity to, but there was an opportunity to just kind of take a step of faith, break down those barriers, get to know this couple. I mean, they spent a ton of time investing in me, even when they weren't even sure I was ready to take the step forward. I mean, there was a lot of hesitation on my part. I just want to share one of the things that I really wrestled with in terms of taking this step forward. I think for me was there was a cost value perspective on this too. Like, if I don't want to pay, I don't want to pay thousands of dollars of medical bills, but how much is this really going to reward me? Like, where I can't see the end of the tunnel, right? Like, I had to kind of take a step of faith, plug into something. And I think something that Rick, you hit on, is definitely Casey did as well, is like being able to serve from that full cup. Like, it's just really, really extremely difficult to serve from your heart and give from your heart and help others from your heart when you just feel like crap all day long, every day, right? And that was one of the things that I was noticing in my life personally. For my backstory, my testimony is that I'm a dad. I've got 2 small boys. I didn't have a good perspective on what it looked like to be, not that I was a bad father. It's just, I didn't want to be engaged because I didn't feel well, and it was hard for me to pour my heart into my wife, into my relationship with her, to pour my relationship with my boys, because I did not feel well myself. I had a lot of anxiety. I was taking medications for anxiety. And I'm not trying to say that we treat, cure, diagnose, do any of that with people. But, one of the things I've been able to do that's been possible for me is that I've been able to wean off some of my medications that I'm taking, or not rely as heavily on them. That's going to vary from individual to individual. I'm not suggesting that. You definitely want to talk to your healthcare professional if that's something you want to explore. But I think the biggest thing I noticed ultimately, for everybody out there that watches this, is that, it just changed, how I showed up, how I served from that full cup, because I was just tired of being that way. And so when I looked at the cost and I assessed the cost of it, and I was able to understand that concept, that I was going to get so much more value out of the little amount of cost I was going to put into this system of, paying a certain amount of money, whatever that boiled down to, whether it's $300 or whatever it boils down for you when you make that choice. Like, that's the thing I want to just harp on, and it really just strongly recommend that you think about, like, what's the longevity of this? What's the outcome of this? Where are you trying to go in the next 6 months to a year or less? I think for all of us, I think we can all agree that we gained so much more just even in the initial 11 days of this program. And I know Rick gained a lot even just doing the other program itself, and this just only enhanced itself. So there was this original system, and he just jumped on with this ER Shred system, and it's just even blown up even more out of proportion in terms of the results that he saw, the way he felt. And so I just want to encourage all the dads out there, all the men out there that are just thinking about the different things that Rick shared, that Casey shared, that I've shared. If you're just looking for something to really expand your ability to serve, to show up, to something that's worthwhile cost that you can invest in, that you're going to get long returns, long dividends, long gains on. That's a permanent lasting change, as you can hear from all three of us. I highly, highly recommend that you reach out to one of us. My email address is steven.rabel@gmail.com. Happy to, or if you want to just shoot me an email and you want to talk to Rick or Casey, like, I'm definitely happy to put you in touch. And I'll let you guys quickly share, if you want, any of your contact info, and then I'm going to kind of wrap this up for us.
Well, can I share one thing real quick? This is something that I'm going to start doing, because Steven, you kind of pushed me, and Rick, I've been seeing your lives for so long, and I know I wasn't ready to do that. But I know, like, some of my topics I'm going to get into and start doing this. But one thing I would to reach out to, like, any males and not just males, like most of the people that I've talked to that have reservations with trying to 11-day shred. The thing I hear over and over again is alcohol. Oh, I got to give up alcohol. Oh, I got to miss happy hour. That might have been my thought at one time too. Like, man, I can't go to Friday happy hour, And back when I was talking about, I teach kids, and we talk about alcohol, tobacco, other drugs. And I had a health teacher teach me or explain to me a long time ago. She goes, when you're talking about alcohol, a lot of your kids, like, don't drink it. Obviously, they're 12, 13 years old. So it's like they don't really resonate with that, too much, that notion. But she goes, when you teach it, like, think about how many things that we associate alcohol with. And then think about, if we didn't have the alcohol, are those things going to go on? Are weddings going to go on? Or your 21st birthday, you're still going to be 21, you're going to be 22, the birthday parties, like, everything that we associate. And I get really frustrated with how alcohol is always associated with all athletics. But I get the money thing. I get it's from money, but it really bothers me. And I try to think about that. And then when someone says, well, I had to give up alcohol, my first thing I think of is, what else is going on in your life that it's that bad? Because obviously that alcohol is probably triggering something. But I'll tell you, that was like the easiest thing that I did when I started this. 4 or 5 days into it, I wasn't even thinking about having beer, having a glass of wine. I wasn't even thinking about it. And, that's one thing I'm going to kind of try to talk to with some of the guys that I know. I know a lot of bartenders. I just know people that have always used that to cope. And, I've been there. I was in school for college 5 years, my undergrad. I get it. I had a good time with it. But, when is it like, why is that so much more important than anything else? And that's kind of when it hit me. And I hope I can kind of relay that. Maybe I can change some views on that. Doesn't mean you can't go back and have a beer again. Like I do, I have a glass of wine, a beer, whatever. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like that's one of those excuses, or that's one that they keep, like, hitting themselves in the head. And so that's what I'm going to tackle in my live. And you guys have helped push me to do that. So wait for those lives. They'll come out.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Casey. I'm glad you touched on that, because that was a big reservation for me too, I think. What am I going to have to give up? Even if it wasn't alcohol, what are the things that I'm going to have to change? Like, this is going to be so hard. And I want to bring it back to that cost comparison. Like, yeah, in the long run, like, that's the thing, like, try not to think about it, I guess, or I had to think about it. That was what was crucial for me, is I had to see it as a long-term investment. I mean, this isn't a magic pill, like Rick said. This isn't going to, dramatically take away all your problems. That's not what we're claiming here. We're telling you that this just enhances the ability to tackle those problems, to operate on a different level, to be the man that, you were meant to be, to serve the people that you were meant to serve at your full capacity. And so we're just reaching out and asking guys, and again, ladies too, this isn't only, just for the guys, but that's where we're focusing on, is that, talk to people in your life, reach out to us about this. We want to invite you. We have another ER Shred actually happening on December 6th, I believe it is, or I know it's happening sooner, right, Rick? Like, it's the week before, right? Week after Thanksgiving with our group.
Yeah, I think there's November 29th, December 6th, and then December 13th, if they want to see 3 dates that are upcoming.
Yeah. So it's coming up quick. And I know that right now our fulfillment company is running a special. So if money is an issue for you, like, we have some opportunities here now this week to actually take advantage and maybe even save you some money and get you on board, get you going in the right direction. So would love for you guys to reach out to us. Thank you all so much for watching today.
Hey, Steven, before you wrap up, can I just say one last thing? Because I want guys to know, especially, that for the most part, this is easy. this is pretty much up guys' alley in terms of what our protocol is all about. You guys typically can do this in your sleep because this is what you've done most of your life. So I just want people to know, yeah, the alcohol and those, you know, coping mechanisms that we have, absolutely, we all have them. First, we have crutches or for whatever reason. But in terms of the overall arching protocol itself, it is simple, it's easy, and it's usually right in the strike zone for guys to really hit it out of the park. So we'd love for you guys to consider it and learn more about it through Steven. You can get in touch with Casey or me through Steven.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. I really appreciate it. And like you said, I mean, I've got a bigger amount of time or like a story behind it, but those were the main pain points for me. It was the fact that I had to change my habits, whether it was alcohol or other foods. You know, I was concerned about the cost, and we have ways around that to help you with that. Like, don't let those be barriers, is what we're ultimately imploring you to think about. Is don't let those be barriers to the ultimate goal, which is you being able to serve and be the man that you're supposed to be. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching through with us. Again, steven.rabel@gmail.com or only11days.com, whatever, you know, is easier for you to get in touch with me. I'll get you in touch with Casey or Rick if you so please. And we really appreciate everyone who's taking the time to watch this today. Have a great Thanksgiving with your friends and family, and we'll see you next time. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yep. Bye.